I guess we can let me make this readable for people. Is there anyone, before we start with our one-item agenda, is there anyone that's new to the group that wants to introduce themselves or say hey or anything like that?
Hello, guys. I'm just joining first time. I'm from NetApp, so at the moment just watching and trying to catch up with you guys and everything regarding the Istio telemetry and other stuff. So just ignore me at the moment.
Great. Well, thanks for joining, and let us know if there's something in particular that is of interest to talk through.
Yeah.
We are particularly interested in Istio mixer adapters and telemetry. So we are trying to build some mixer adapters for NetApp product on cloud inside. So basically, just joined first time here to to collect some information and try to better understand the product, the Istio itself, and everything else.
Great. And I think we have others on the call. I see Vanille is here that have done some of the walkthroughs recently, and Scott, I see as well, for the process adapter. So should you have questions, I think we have a pretty decent community here for walking through that process. So feel free to reach out.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Just to introduce myself, hello, my name is Guilherme. I work on Kiali with Red Hat. I've been here mostly on listening mode and now speaking. So basically, that's it.
Great. Nice to meet you virtually.
Yeah. Nice to meet you as well.
Okay. Let's see. Last week we talked a little bit about 103 and where to put adapters. So I think some of that stuff that was just brought up, if we look through the notes from last meeting, you can find some information on. Mandar, do you have an update on the 103 release?
Yeah, so we found a few more issues that needed to be fixed in the past 2 days. Now we have everything that we need, and by Friday, I expect everything to be okay. So we should be able to release on Friday.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I have one item that I wanted to bring up. A while back, we introduced this use adapter CRD flag for Mixer to try and provide a way so that Mixer could start up without perhaps checking all of the individual CRDs for each individual type of adapter, but instead use just the adapter CRD for listening and configuration. And we set it to so we set it to true, so that was the existing behavior by default. But some of the people who have been experiencing API server performance issues have noted that when they've tried it with it set to false, have seen things become stable and all of a sudden start working. And this is particularly on EKS. So I think my suggestion here is that we update the default setting for that flag to be false for 1.1, and I wanted to run that by the group.
So that means all the adapter configurations need to be updated?
Yes, but the PR that put that flag in updated them. So the install should now not need them. And the issue would be backwards compatibility with old.
Yeah, so existing customer config.
Right, customer config would be affected by that.
Yeah.
And then there's a bunch of docs that would need to be updated as well.
Which docs would need to be updated? Is this
our Istio docs?
Yeah.
some examples there.
Right, the examples, some of them still say kind equals the old stuff. So
And did all the protos get updated for the individual adapters? All the protos got updated as well in that PR.
All the protos.
Protos are not changed. It's just the envelope.
Okay, it's just that the
right,
protos,
just the housing.
the config.proto files also have documentation that references a particular use pattern.
Okay, fair enough.
There is actually a related change that Peter made, right? Which would, like, we made it for Apogee,
Okay.
which would continue to watch for other things in the background. So that will actually affect this.
We said continue to watch for other things. I mean,
Going to work for CRDs, new CRDs.
New CRDs.
Yes. Why is this too related?
Well, so if the issue is that some of the old kinds or some of the kinds that customers use are not like installed yet, or they're still on the old plan, doing this won't just completely break them. It like things will show up, and like things will eventually start working. So I think, and that PR is already kind of under review for the cherry pick or something like that.
So is that going to break this behavior? I mean, part of the goal here is to not establish mini watches on the API server.
Right. I mean, it should be clear that we want to deprecate the old way and move to the new way. So at least we should mark it as deprecated in 1.1, so we have time to move people over.
Right. So I think that marking it deprecated is okay, but just removing directly is going to break things there.
Move things.
Yeah, we are a release product, so we have we need to keep things working for like 6 months at least.
All right, so mark as deprecated.
So does that mean spewing errors amongst other things in the logs? I think that would be, what other way would we deprecate other than release notes? I think just spewing errors, that's saying this is going to go away, stop using it. Okay. So that needs to be in a 1.1 PR then.
Okay, so do we need a flag that says I have moved to the new world, stop wasting this, stop creating watches?
And that's what that
Yeah,
uses
that's the
adapter
flag.
CRDs.
Okay,
is.
this flag does that specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, so now we're saying that we won't be able to just turn it on. We'll first have to have some deprecation thing, and then customers may turn it on in response to API server issues that they see.
Don't we need both modes at the same time sometimes? Because if you have old ways and you install the new Istio, which has a new way, you should be able to run both at the same time.
Oh yeah, that's what I was expecting. Okay.
So just a flag. It's you need two flags.
What's the new flag?
Look, what we should do is support both modes, update the docs to show only the new mode, and print out a warning when the old stuff is discovered at runtime.
So again, I worry that by establishing watches on all the things, even with the flag on, we don't get the performance benefit.
Right.
And then the third, the last thing I forgot to mention is adding a flag that says turn off the old stuff.
But that's this, right? That is the flag.
That's this flag. So we
But you
You
need
can't
both
turn that
modes
off
at the
until
same
people have moved their config.
okay.
So and then is it possible can we detect in this process a new call and just set the flag to on, or whatever?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't catch.
For new installs, can we just force it on?
Yes, for new installs, we can force it on, and I think there's a PR out from someone else right now that does that in Helm and provides the Helm config parameter for this. And I think we'd want to make it the default for installs.
But the problem is, like, you cannot tell an install from, like, so Helm inside the charts, you cannot tell whether it's an install or an upgrade. So it has to be the operator needs to tell us that it is safe to use this new flag. And yeah, I don't think we can do it automatically and safely.
That's too bad.
So I think this is fine, right? So the only new bit of thing here is spewing the deprecation warnings in the logs, and then not turning the default to true.
Yeah, and wait till 1.2.
And wait till 1.2. But
And support the new resources today.
well, that we already do.
Yeah, that's done.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So we already support the new resources today, but the flag is there. I mean, it was done in response to API server performance issues.
Yeah.
So customers can choose to turn it on when they have those issues, and at the same time convert their old config to the new format. And we have a tool to do that, right?
Do we have a tool?
I don't think so.
I don't know if it's a tool.
It's a good use for a tool, but
Yeah, I think
it's not. You can also just provide guidance. It's not that mechanical.
I think we should provide a tool then. We should provide a tool by 1.2 time frame. For sure.
Okay. So that's something I wanted to bring up. I see you put the perf recommendation on for Prometheus here.
Yes. So for telemetry in the large cluster, what seems to have worked so far is scrape interval reduced down to 30 seconds, or rather increased to 30 seconds. And the Prometheus adapter supports metric expiry, which will remove metrics that are not used after 10 minutes. So doing both those reduces the amount of stuff that Prometheus needs to hold on to. And these numbers have worked in the large cluster.
Yeah. So just to be clear, the Prometheus adapter was holding on to metrics forever by default. And this is a problem if you have a large number of deployments happening over a day or anything like that. So I think, so is the recommendation to move these values into the default for 1.1? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
and make them Helm configurable.
Any objections or any thoughts there? Are there any other things that we should talk about? Documents out that you want review or comments on, or open issues people see? Peter or Mandar, do one of you want to just comment on the current status of the OOP out of tree stuff? Just any updates?
So one update I have is that I'm working on a tool which will generate a boilerplate, like a scaffolding code for moving compiling adapter to auto process adapter. And it's still working in progress. And with that, adapter developer doesn't have to write extra Go code to make it to make compiling adapter into auto process. They just need to generate the Docker file or the Helm template, all those stuff. Yeah, but I don't know. Do we want to help them to do that as well? Like generate an example Docker file and Helm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think everything that we have in our little example needs to be auto-generated.
Okay. And I think that tool would benefit not only the compiling adapter that is in Istio Mixer repo, but also future adapter developers.
Yeah, so given this tool, can we recommend that people just write in-proc adapters?
Yes.
Because it is simpler.
Yes, that would, yeah.
Is there a way to run out of process adapters in process?
What?
Yes.
I mean, given the source code, of course, like you need to combine the source code. Is there a way to combine them?
Okay, so if you write it specifically out of process, is there a way to run it still in process?
Because the binary interface is different.
Right. I mean, so again, we can add that support to runtime
Is there interest in that?
to
Would that
support
be
that.
more convenient to develop an out-of-process adapter by running in process?
Probably, yeah. I mean, from a debugging kind of perspective, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah, because the interface is different, so you're probably going to have different metrics and different experience.
I mean, I would say that out of process is the way to go. So bringing out of process in process isn't, at least like I don't consider it high value. I mean, Martin, do you have?
No, I agree. I was just suggesting if it's easier to write an in-proc adapter and let the tool generate all the boilerplate stuff, but it still results in an out-of-process adapter at the end.
Right.
I think we should deprecate the in-process templates eventually.
Yes.
That's my desire, really. So.
Yes. Oh, and actually another thing to add there for 1.1 is that our default install doesn't yet install all the instances. Sorry, all the templates. Or does that PR already do that?
All the templates. What ones are you thinking are missing?
The out of process templates.
Oh,
Right, because I have pointed people multiple times to
I don't think
artifacts
it
that we have already generated and saying, okay, just apply these, but I think we should just put them in our install so that the standard templates in their dynamic form are already available.
Yeah, I don't think it does.
Okay.
Send it to you.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a track. Vanille, you're adding something?
Yeah, so I was just curious if we want to like standardize the adapter installation and management for the whole of Istio, or how do you want to go about there?
So I think it would be good to have a clear template being overloaded here, a clear pattern for how to manage adapters, install them, monitor them, handle their life cycle. I don't know that we have much written down about that yet.
And can we do anything beyond just a pattern? Is there any specific tooling we can provide, or?
I was just thinking about adding some additional command line, maybe sub commands for just managing the adapter lifecycle.
Commands to what? Istio-CTL?
Yep.
Okay, I think that's
That's not a bad idea.
an interesting idea.
Yeah, you can also list the existing adapters.
Yeah, do all that. So if that's a good idea, then maybe I can do a POC around that.
Sure.
What kind of functions? So like install. What like?
There's install, uninstall, and list.
Yeah, or maybe also list the configuration for the adapter.
So for operations that have a straight kubectl command, I don't think we should have an istio-ctl command too, right? It is possible to list adapters using kubectl today and like look at their configuration. So having two ways, like unless there is, actually no, I think having two ways is just bad. I don't think there is any good reason to have two ways.
Yeah, we moved away from that, right? We
Right.
removed all the redundancy.
So it should only contain like net new function, which cannot be provided by kubectl.
Like validation or
Right.
vetting.
So some sort of validation, like running some test, like some validation test or acceptance test, or like it has to be of that flavor. So that's
Okay.
one. So yeah, you can. I mean, I would say that if you come up with just a proposal or a write-up first,
Sure.
before a POC, that like we just save.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep.
Good idea.
The other thing I wanted to bring up as the agenda was the fail close versus fail open. It looks like at some point right before 1.0 we switched over and only supported fail closed for policy without the option to override it and support fail open. So there've been a bunch of PRs in the last day, I think, that have been added to master, and we need to decide.
No, they've been added to 1.0 as well.
They get cherry picked everywhere.
Yeah, they got cherry picked.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's available in 1.03 as well.
So there are now options, Helm install options as well to support fail open for policy, if that's needed. That's a
Yeah, we really need to put this per adapter.
It's a client side option.
Right. This one is a client side option.
There's another one for
And
handles.
it's actually not very recommended, right? Like it kind of defeats the purpose in many ways. So I would say that only under very special considerations would you want to use that option.
But there's a point here, which is there's a similar problem with auto process adapters, which is don't expose the configuration. Like the timeout setting, it helps, but if you have unreachable adapter, overload adapter, it's the same problem.
It is the same problem, and then yes. I mean, it's not really an out-of-process adapter thing, right? Even for in-process adapter that communicates with outside, you have all the same issues, like what happens when that thing doesn't communicate. So it's not really an out-of-process thing. It's just that what happens when external services are not available. You treat it as a success or failure, or do you let the client decide? Like right now, we don't give client the granularity of that result, right? We just say, what was the result of this call?
Right, so that's why it needs to be a per adapter setting that's controlled by the operator.
Yeah. We just need a place in the API to hang that, right? Basically.
Yeah, so it's per adapter config state. That's not adapter specific, it's generic.
I think we already have a issue open for this.
Yeah, we do.
Well, the fact that it's being asked for perhaps implies that we should bump it up from a P3 to a P2 or whatever the priority listings are.
Yes.
The only other thing I had to mention was that I meant to get it out yesterday and it just didn't, but I'm going to send an email to the list today with a small doc on new attributes for supporting cluster attributes and mesh attributes. So please look forward to that and comment on it. It includes sort of the attribute names, but also some thoughts on how we might possibly generate the data to fill them. And so that will be coming out. I appreciate reviewing that. I don't know, does anyone else?
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
So right now we only have no session-based auto process adapter, which is basically we send configuration for every call to the auto process adapter. So do we want to support session-based adapter like in the I don't know the timeline in 1.2 or
in the 1.2 time frame?
Yeah.
So Scott, based on your current designs, I forget where we left it. How much state is needed by individual adapters to do the API management stuff? Are you there?
I am here. That is, well, it all depends on implementation.
Right. Well, we talked about potentially having quite a large chunk of config state for an adapter that would be inappropriate to send for every request.
Yeah, I don't think I'd want to send all of it for every request, right? So, I mean, even assuming that what we have is doable in a CRD, it would only really make sense for the CRD to be the configuration, not the request level stuff.
Yeah. So can we shoot for this to add this in 1.2, the session stuff?
Yeah, I think we can. So the question there, I guess Scott and anyone else who has experimented with this, is that what we had talked about even in the initial designs is that using the non-session based, where we send the whole config with every call, it's possible for the adapter to optimize it by just having a pointer, right? Some sort of pointer in the config itself, and then that's like one string or something. And then the adapter saying, oh, okay, yes, this thing means whatever the actual configuration is. And
the problem is if the config is a megabyte in size.
Right, then you need a config service that you can go out and get it from or something.
Well, but there is already a config service, right? Which is Kube API server. Or Galley, right? I mean, you can always say that, look, my configuration, and which is why I said, like, so pointer to a Blobstore or some API server location, that is your config inside the actual adapter. So yeah, you get that send every time, but that's very small. And then the adapter itself is looking up the real config and like doing that. So has anyone experimented with that, or have you, Scott, or?
No. So you're saying that I would have to have a reference to something in the Kubernetes API server that I would create separately?
Or anywhere else, right? Any other Blobstore is fine too. If you have a shared file system, that's fine too. Whatever it is, some out of bandwidth.
Yeah, but there's no other Blobstore available as part of Istio, right? I mean, you don't provide a Blobstore.
That is correct.
So now I have to deploy a Blobstore along with my adapter to be able to do this, and then I have to configure it somehow.
Yeah. So so the alternative is to push all this stuff in CRDs and have the adapter read the CRDs directly.
Right.
That then creates a coupling between the adapter and Kubernetes.
Right.
Which we're trying to avoid.
There could be a proxy for that config, but that's also complicated.
Well, so or we do the session-based thing.
Yes, or yes, or we need a session-based thing. I was just like, yeah.
Is Galley a good source of config for other processes?
I mean, Galley is a good sort of config, but it means that those things are coupled again.
And
to
you also have to run it in the same mesh, which is
to
not
Galley, right?
Yes, and it means Galley would need to be changed to understand. Galley is not a generic thing like API server, right? So it need to be changed to understand this adapter, which is right.
I'm sure CRD support to Galley is coming.
Oh, like second level CRD.
I mean, alternatively, Istio itself could support this mechanism to send a URI that can be directly accessed within Istio, right? And so Istio itself would provide some sort of Blobstore.
Yeah, we have stayed away from actually providing these sort of services so far.
Right.
But yeah, that's something to consider though. I mean, the API server is a Blobstore of some type, right?
YAML blobs.
Yeah, so like you can say, look, my configuration resides at config map, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I know config map is much loved, but something else like that. And then config maps can be mounted in file system. So that offers a bit of decoupling. And then you can read from there. So there is a way today. The reason I'm asking this so many times is that is that or anything else that someone comes up with going to be worse than the session-based support? Because that's also, I mean, that also requires state management.
But it's not persistent state.
it's not persistent state, but yeah, it still requires state management, and they like for things that completely reside out of the mesh, I fully expect those adapters to do the things that I described anyway, right? When you're calling from mesh to a completely different thing, like something over the internet, I expect like an API key and some other token to pull up all the other configuration from the other side, right? Like that's,
Yeah.
so given that, why is it that different when you're calling something in the mesh?
I mean, a little tangent. It seems like it would be nice if it worked kind of like Pilot did, right? Where you know, you get sent a configuration, and you just update based on that and carry on.
Yeah, so the difference with Pilot, the slight difference is that the adapters are multi-tenant, whereas the sidecar is single-tenant.
Sure. Yes.
So, but that just means when you send a config, you send it with an ID.
Right.
Interesting.
Or you have the sidecars configured by Pilot. Sorry, you have the adapters configured by Pilot, right? I mean, Pilot is or Galley, and then we're back to the coupling though. So. Okay, we have. I think people can add other comments here and through the mailing list. But it's.
I think it depends how dynamic the config is. Really, is if it's more or less static, then you can just make it a deployment option. Somehow you just attach a big blob and deploy adapter. If you want really dynamic config, when you can use kubectl to change it, then yes, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we should start a doc on just this.
Yeah,
piece
and essentially rehash the. So when we first approved the original design doc, saying we're going to do session as well as the next step, we have something there, but I think yeah, I agree. It needs to be rehashed and reaffirmed if we want to still do it
right
as a for 1.2.
And it sounds like we're gonna have a lot more adapter authors that can
yes,
chime in.
That can actually chime in and say.
Design. Okay, is that discussion you were looking for?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. Does anyone else have anything before we move on?
Yeah.
So Vanil, you added this question.
Yep. As far as I see, all the values for the source attributes are unknown in my adapter dashboard. So I was just curious, like, why is it always unknown, and why can't it track the source attribute values?
When you say always unknown, like it shouldn't always be unknown, but there are cases where things will be unknown. Right? So as it comes through the ingress gateway, we don't know the source of the traffic.
Yeah, but for example, for the book info demo, I do see the source is unknown even for the requests that go to the ratings service.
Go for the. I'm sorry. Say that again.
So in the book info demo, we have the rating service, right? And
yes,
the request to that goes via reviews. So in that case, it shouldn't be unknown, right?
Right. You should not be seeing unknowns for that.
But I think I do see it as unknown. So there may be an issue somewhere.
Yeah. So the where that can happen is so for TCP traffic, we can see this occasionally. If we can't look up by IP in the Kubernetes inv adapter, but otherwise the source attribute should be there.
Was this an issue with older versions of Istio? Because I'm seeing this consistently with the Istio 1.x, 1.0.x. Yeah.
It was not an issue, and in fact we have tests that look for source attributes in the end-to-end test. So this shouldn't be an issue with Istio 1.x either.
So you might want to try turning on some of the debug scopes in Mixer.
Okay.
And there's an attribute debug scope, I think, that'll spew out a lot of stuff, but you can see kind of what the attributes are.
Well, actually, I was looking at the logs on Mixer, and I don't see the source versions there as well. So maybe I think I'll turn the debug scope on and dig further.
Yeah, so add more stuff to your logs with the scopes. That'll probably help figure out what's going on.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, and the other thing to check is if source version, I think, is one of the things that comes from the Kubernetes env adapter. So you might want to try just making sure that the logging statements are turned up for that adapter in particular.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Yeah. Anything else we should discuss? Anything else someone wants to bring up or talk about as we head into November?
Who's growing a mustache?
November. Sean is.
I'll shave it before November then.
I'd have to shave my beard and just leave the mustache, I guess.
Or you overlay another mustache on that.
Double mustache. Oh, hey, actually, there is one question I had on external or out of process adapters. Have we worked through the security issues with that?
So I'm still waiting for.
Yeah, there is the auth PR which will definitely get into 1.2. So yes, there is already a PR and a doc. Are you saying something apart from that or just that?
Well, I'm just wondering how close we are to being able to say that out of process adapters are fully reasonable to use.
I think with that PR, we support TLS and we support API key and OAuth. So with that, yeah, we should be good to go.
We said 1.2.
So 1.2.
Oh, sorry, no, we should be able to get that into 1.1.
1.1?
Yeah.
I thought 1.1 is like only if you work on some release blocking issue, right? 1.1 is already.
Right, we need to track it then, because I don't think it was tracked as
No,
well.
1.1. No, we should be able to get it into 1.1.
Okay. So which means we are going to push changes into 1.1 branch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically master.
Okay. Okay. I saw like unless you work on some release blocking issue, you cannot check it.
So that's why we need to prioritize it and say it is a release.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll add it to that list. Yes.
Then we also need to check in the API change into the release 1.1 branch. I think API master branch is also.
Whatever the other thing that PR needs.
Okay. Unless there's something else, I think we should adjourn.
So Doug and Mandar, could you stay online for a bit? So
Yes. But we're gonna exit this meeting.
Yeah, this is the recorded main meeting, so we can come back and on a different line. All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Bye.